Hi there, I'm Levi J. Burr. I'm a musician and a music teacher. I've put out 2 records so far, and I've got a third one that's ready to come out, as yet unreleased. The first one's called Another Domino Map. The second one's called Bucolic Confection, and the one that is upcoming is called New Medieval. I called it New Medieval because I feel like the way that the world is just now, that it's kind of gone back to a medieval outlook across a whole bunch of different things. I'm an instrumental musician. I do a band where I sing as well. That's a bluegrass old time band called the Bardwell Valley Ramblers. But as a solo artist, I generally play live as an improvised ambient electric guitar. I have done some shows just with the acoustic, but you're pretty exposed and vulnerable, and you want to be in pretty good shape playing wise to do that. So I probably prefer the smeary ambient stuff, just because it's a little less preparation and probably easier, I guess, in Sydney to get across to an audience. With the acoustic instrumental stuff being pretty quiet, it can be really hard to get that across to an audience. Okay, I'm going to talk now about 6 albums that I like, and the first one is my go-to album, which came out when I think I was about 20 or so. It's called A Storm in Heaven, and it's by a band from Wigan in England called The Verve. I absolutely love this record. I was a big fan of all the shoegaze stuff that was going on in the early 90s. My Buddy Valentine, Ride, Slow Dive, all of that type of thing. But I really thought that the Verve were a really special band. The guitarist's name is Nick McCabe, and he is a genius, I think. He used a lot of the gear that was around at the time, so just quad reverb, which was, super expensive back then, and lots and lots of delays, space echoes, and big amps, so Mises and quad boxes and things like that. I just always loved his playing. When the band came out, it was kind of the end of the shoegaze era in terms of press popularity, because you had the NME and the Melody Maker back then. And it was the real beginning of grunge, and I loved all that too. I loved all the sub pop bands and the Man's Ruin stuff and all of that. But the Verve, I thought they kind of were just slightly out of time, with the rest of the shoegaze stuff being late 80s, early 90s. They put this record out in 1993, and obviously Nirvana was gigantic at that time, and the shoegazers were being sort of derided in the English press. And then they came back, of course, and had a hit with Bittersweet Symphony and all of that. But I think, the writing was kind of on the wall for the band with the interpersonal stuff by then. So, A Storm in Heaven by The Verve. It's absolutely gorgeous. One of the effects that I mentioned just now is a quad reverb. I use that in my ambient stuff as well. So that'd be my go-to record. The first record I bought, I'm 99% sure, was Brothers in Arms by Dire Straits. It was on CD, so it was at the beginning of CDs. It would have been mid to late 1980s, I guess. And that was a huge hit record when I was a kid, and I'd always loved it. And I think I bought it, maybe in 91 or so, maybe when I was around 18, I'm guessing. Interestingly, somebody said to me the other day, we were listening to William Tyler, who's another guitarist that I really like, and someone said to me, there's a Mark Knopfler aspect here to his sound and to his playing, and I never really noticed it before, but now that it's been brought to my attention, I can definitely hear that there. So maybe if you like William Tyler, Brothers in Arms is probably not something I would put on a lot these days, but obviously it's a classic record nonetheless. Sunday Morning record. All right, I'm going to cheat here and I'm going to say 2. The first one is Astral Weeks by Van Morrison. Once again, an absolute masterpiece. So the story goes, they were top-level jazz session players who were backing him on this record, and he either insisted on zero practice or minimal practice. He said, just follow me, it's easy. And I guess what he's playing is relatively straightforward on the acoustic guitar, but the singing is in a world of its own. It's absolutely stunning. I love the double bass playing. I love all the instrumentation on this record. And it's a good Sunday morning one because it's nice and mellow. The second one I'm going to squeeze in here is Riley Walker's Primrose Hill. And that, for the same reasons as Astral Weeks, the playing on it is beautiful. I think it's probably more, there was more time and labor put into the arrangements and to the lyrics, maybe not so the lyrics, but yeah, I feel like it's a better rehearsed sort of a record. The Van Morrison one is kind of a little bit loose and ragged, and that's a part of its charm. The last album I bought was a solo record. I bought it on Bandcamp from a Sydney guitar player named Jack Elias. I saw him playing live a couple of years ago, and he had a really sort of cool and unusual stage presence. He sang partially in English, partially in Arabic, and his guitar playing was really unusual, really amazing. About as far from your Chicago blues-based rock and roll stuff as it's possible to be. So that was the last record I bought on Bandcamp. An album that stands the test of time, Paul's Boutique by the Beastie Boys. Came out, I think, when I was about 16. Marvelous record. I think they say that record used so many samples, and they knew, I think, that people who owned the intellectual property that was being used in the sample, specifically really people like James Brown and Prince, and people whose music was being used constantly, they were getting to the point where they were start to getting paid for those samples. But as far as I know, it was a little bit more like the Wild West, up until when Paul's Boutique came out, and the Beasties knew that. So supposedly they tried to use as many samples as they possibly could. But it's a super cool, super quirky, interesting record. And I listened to it the other day and I thought that literally could have come out yesterday. So it's quite lo-fi in the production values compared to some of their other stuff. But yeah, it's definitely one for the ages and one that stands the test of time. The record more people should hear. So this is a fingerstyle guitar record, primitive guitar. It's by Jack Rose and it's called Kensington Blues. It's a really tough guitar sound, really compressed, really powerful. Like it's got the guts of an electric guitar, I think. It's a fabulous record. The song Kensington Blues is my favorite off the record. I've learned how to play my version of that. But yeah, a record I think more people should hear is Kensington Blues by Jack Rose. It's well known amongst fingerstyle guitar people, but probably not so well known amongst more widespread music lovers. So yeah, Kensington Blues would be a good one to check out. Plans that I have, I'll be putting out this record probably in around about 6 months or so. Up until then, I'll be releasing a single a month. I just released my first single, which was a collaboration with the Howard Hughes Suite. That's probably my favorite song from the record. So Richie played beautiful pedal steel. It's got a little bit of a Beach Boys influence almost in it, I think. And yeah, I'll be releasing singles monthly up until probably, say, what would it be, next March, April, and then I'll put New Medieval out. Plans to do some more gigs as well, so to try and get into the sort of more flexible, less traditional music spaces where people are doing ambient music and experimental music. And doing that, I'll do a launch gig for New Medieval as well, I reckon. I'll probably need to play an acoustic guitar there. I won't be able to get away with the ambient electronic, not so much electronic as pedal-based stuff. Social media, I'm on Instagram, so that's levi.j.burr_music, levi.j.burr_music. That's Instagram. I'm on Facebook too, if you just search for Levi J Burr Music there as well. I've got a TikTok account, and I'm on YouTube as well. All of them under Levi J Burr. So if you look that up on any of those platforms, you will be able to find me. And I think that kind of wraps it up. Thanks for the opportunity, John, to chat about these special records. The Verve one, I'm actually going to go and put that on now, I think, because I'm home, work week is finished, and what better way to ease into it than with A Storm in Heaven. Have a great week, folks. Ciao.